Welcome to Wealthing Talks. I am your host, Alicia Castillo Holley, bringing you real-life conversations from Silicon Valley or somewhere around the world. We will talk about disruptors, angel investments, venture capital, and of course, family offices. Join me along with my children, their families, friends, disruptors, and investors as we explore the fascinating world of creating wealth in a completely different and authentic way. Hello, everyone. It is such a pleasure to have Laura Lucas here as our guest. Laura, I just adore you. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Alicia. I'm so happy to be here with you.
So let's just start with the present. What are you doing now? And how did you get here? How did you get to do what you're doing now?
Yes, right now I am building and investing, and I'm investing out of a fund called Latitude Ventures. It's a $100 million venture fund focused on US Latino and Latina founders. We are the largest in the United States. And I am also starting another fund that is Libra Leaders. It's a $50 million vehicle that invests in early stage pre-seed and seed founders that are women. And what's exciting about that opportunity is that, as you know, Alicia, very well, that we are living right now through two of the most transformative shifts in modern history. And that is the rise of AI and automation and the rise of women in economic and institutional power. And both of those are reshaping things today. And together, those represent, I believe, an enormous investment opportunity for the next century. And so that's why we're really excited about this intersection. And we are looking for companies at this intersection. And I think there's a strong capital efficiency and bias towards building these solutions.
I love it. You know, I've been at this for 40 years and
Mhm.
I've seen a humongous change in women's access to capital, but also decision making in financial decisions. And I see this with a lot of hope.
Yes.
And I think we need to build bridges, and I see this happening. So it is amazing. The conversations have changed dramatically, and this is time to take action. And I just feel we're unstoppable. So very, very happy to have you here and to be
Yeah.
having this conversation. It's so great for the future generation, both men and women, not just women, both men and women. So
Yeah.
how did you get involved into investing in venture capital? What happened?
Well, some people plan to get here and they have a linear path. I didn't. I actually, I'm originally from Guadalajara, Mexico, and I'm a proud Tapatía. And when I came to the United States, of course, it was a huge shock. I came at the age of 10, taught myself how to learn English through a janitor in one of my elementary schools. So, school education and where I am today was not even close to what I understood or even knew. But what happened was, as I started working hard and just, being a good student and understand what the world had to offer, I put myself through college, ended up graduating and landing a job as an accountant clerk at a financial firm. And that was the first time where I understood what it meant to invest. It was the first time I understood what the capital markets were. And that really unlocked a lot for me because it helped me understand like these structures that were in place that I never knew about, like Wall Street. And that changed my really what I was focused on because prior to that, I really didn't know what I wanted to do in my career. But that opportunity then allowed me to not only stay in the financial industry, grow in the financial industry with over 10 years of experience. It allowed me to break out, become a founder myself, launch a business, sell a business, and then come back into, I would say, one of the most incredible opportunities of my life, which was to be with NASDAQ. I was the managing director for new listings and capital markets and saw several companies get started and then go public. And so understanding how those structures happen, how that happens it's a very unique process. And my former boss used to tell me there's only six of you in the world that actually get to understand and educate founders that are going to be billionaires on how to do this in the industry. But what I realized while I was doing this over many years is that there were not very many women and there were not very many women that looked like me. And so I took it upon myself to then join Latitude Ventures, where we raised 100 million. And now I'm on the other side of it, investing in more entrepreneurs that are creating new industries, new innovation, and of course, everything that we're seeing right now in the growth of AI. And not because I think it's capital related, but because it's growth related. It is something that I am now seeing that more women, more people are building in these sectors that I had never seen before. And so that's how I got here. Like I said, it wasn't a linear path. It was just by sheer understanding of different opportunities that got me to this place.
Wow. How interesting and amazing. If you were to write yourself, Laura at 20, if you were to write yourself a letter saying, hey, this is what you need to keep in mind. These are the things that I learned that I didn't know, that I had no clue I needed to learn. What would you tell your 20-year-old Laura?
I think that one of the biggest things that people think about when they fail is that it is failure.
Mm-hmm.
And I have learned that failing is not failing. Failing is an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to reflect on what happened and understand how to take that into the next chapter of your life or your future. Like I said, when I graduated from college, I actually wanted to go into law enforcement. I wanted to become an FBI agent. So and I went in front of many organizations to interview, and I didn't get it. I didn't get the position. I wanted to go to Quantico, Virginia, and train as an FBI agent, and they said you need to go get some real world experience, was basically what they told me. So I tried to get some real world experience, starting at, like I said, an entry level position in this financial firm. But what I was thinking was a failure, not, landing this opportunity opened up a whole new door for me to unlock these opportunities in the capital markets and in the financial industry. And I will tell you a funny story. So I think after 3 years of working in the financial industry, I literally got a letter from the FBI to
No.
go re-interview again because they had now open recruiting sessions for that position. I thought it was the funniest thing because, again, you never know where you're going to end up. And I'm very happy at what I do today. I think, working for the federal government and working in those positions are obviously very needed. And there's an incredible amount of intelligent people working in those positions. But yeah, it just goes to show you, the failure
Wow.
leads you in another direction, but that I learned a lot from that opportunity.
This is so interesting that you say that because on so many occasions we're told and we tell our kids, do what you're good at, do what you're passionate about, but sometimes we have no clue. Like I had no clue venture capital existed.
Yeah.
No clue. when I was growing up. Of course, there was not a lot, but if people would ask me, how did I get here? It's again, it's, well, I did this and I did that and I did different things. But this is very interesting because first we need role models. So
Yes.
other people can see, hey, we can do that. But also we need to push people into some industries because they're not that common. Most of the kids that I know, they like space and dinosaurs when they're very little, and they want to be like ice cream person. When I grew up, I don't know if that
Yeah.
was with you. When I grew up, we had a little cart that had a special tune, and you knew the ice cream
The
truck
ice
was
cream truck.
coming.
Yeah.
And I remember everybody wanted to be an ice cream truck driver because we wanted to get the ice cream. But that's a reality. We don't see that much. How do you think we can encourage more people to look at being an investor or being in venture capital? Because this is a great opportunity for people to think about it. Think about how do you get connected? How do you look at this world?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's very interesting, like going back to the story of, what you don't see and what you don't know you can be. And so very relevant to what I'm doing today in my career journey of like building this fund for women. I have a daughter who's 11 years old. And she's she's wonderful. She's all the things that I think, when we say as mothers, she's my superstar. But one thing that I started to think about is how do I start to unlock this for her
Mhm.
and for with the things that I never learned. And it's very much how potentially our parents would do it. My dad and my mom always, and even my grandparents would always want us to work hard, but also help them in doing things that they did to work. So I grew up on a farm. And so, helping with the stuff around the farm was very relevant. So that's exactly what I'm doing with my daughter today. When I have conferences, when I have events, when I have exciting things happen to me, I bring her and I explain to her what it is, what's going on, and why it's important. And then she sees me in those rooms and she sees the other people who want to understand about what I'm building and the knowledge that I have. And that actually has happened to me more recently where I started doing this for her. And it has unlocked this curiosity of just wanting to learn, wanting to understand more about the capital markets and Wall Street, and I think it's incredible. And so I think it starts there with the next generation is so interesting because they don't see any barriers. They
Yeah.
everything and they want to go and they want to be involved. So I love that about them because when I was, building my career, I was like, oh my God, I can't ask, or should I ask, or, should I do these things, or how am I going to get this? No, that is not a problem with the 11-year olds. They actually demand being there, which is great. So I think that that's it a way that I think about bringing more people into the fold and helping them understand, sharing knowledge, sharing networks, not being a gatekeeper, really investing in community, investing in the next generation that we want to see grow with us, and obviously being a role model for them.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I do remember I did Chile's first seed capital fund, and I'm not from Chile, but I lived there 7 years, and I brought my son was very much into sports, but I brought my daughter to work every day after school. She had to come to work just because I didn't want her to be, doing nothing or watching TV.
Mhm.
And the school ended at 3. So, but in Chile, you finish working at 7. So she had to come to my office after school, and she has become such a smart businesswoman. And then I would finish the meeting on my place because I live very close to my office. I move everything so I wouldn't spend too much time on traffic. And at least twice a week, we would finish the meeting at my place. And we would have, my kids had this extraordinary opportunity to have dinner with people who were either investors or they were founders. Um, and very curious, like you said, very curious about how do you do this, how do you do that. And I just realized how fortunate we were to be able to do that because I grew up in a house where we didn't talk about money. You know, my dad was,
Mm.
my mom and
Yeah,
my dad, they were socialist professors, you know, and it was in Venezuela where it was not it was frowned upon because we were intellectuals. So we're like, it's all about you study, you learn, what did you learn? The other language, the cell. So the conversations at home were completely different than the conversation I have with my kids. But I think most people of my generation were just thinking about you get a job, you get paid, you
right,
save, and
right.
um, and that's it. And for me, I think I was in my 20s when I first heard about investing. In my 20s, I didn't know the word asset and liability until I did my MBA, and I was 35, and I was already a professor. And it was just I couldn't understand some things, and I decided to go and learn it. But it was really interesting when I learned that you invest for your retirement. It was a foreign concept to me. I said, well, what happened
Right.
to your family? What do you mean I
Aren't
have
you
to
gonna
take
be
care?
there to take care of them,
Yeah, I take care of my
right?
parents. So that's a cultural thing too. Or my mom is a Scandinavian, and it's like, well, wait a second.
Yeah.
What about the government? The government takes, so it was just really interesting. And then that leads me to the next question that I want to ask. That is, in this world that we live, we're just very privileged to be in the Bay Area and to be investing. How do you think we create wealth? What is the wealth creation? What is wealthing for you? What is wealth creation? How do you think we do that?
Um, that's a very important question. I recently was speaking to the UN, and because it's Women's Month, the UN gathered women from all over the world to talk about, what they believe they need and wealth in their own communities. And these were women from all over the world, from
Hmm.
Africa,
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
Europe, from the Nordics. And obviously, every ecosystem was different in terms of how they perceived wealth. And and I think one of the things that we're very privileged, like you mentioned earlier today, is that AI is going to be a great equalizer, and for that, we'll be able to, as you know, at really any backgrounds and gender will be able to hopefully capitalize on some of the structures that have been built and are in place today that allow you to gain wealth. Um, and so I'm hoping that being able to build these opportunities that I'm doing right now with venture capital, that structure maintains and continues to be a legacy because that will then allow other women to access that capital, to build wealth for themselves. And then they will invest in these ecosystems that normally don't get funded, like just food and water in certain parts of the world, like clothing in other parts of the world, like just the basic necessities of education. And so to me, it's all of those things being able to have something that I am investing in so that I can invest in others. And that investment then takes full circle into communities that actually have needs outside of just capital.
Wow. Would you call that impact investing, or would you call that your personal um, thesis of investment or
I think it's personal because I do believe that as more women and diverse thinkers come to the table and build wealth for themselves, they'll then deploy that back into the ecosystems in a more thoughtful way because we think about, hey, we are in investing in certain things that, some would agree or disagree that are necessary for this world. But yet we can't still solve running water in certain parts of the world, or there's people who don't have basic needs or education. And to me, that's just doing the right thing with wealth as a woman because we're nurturers, because we're caretakers, and we want everybody to do well. And so that's why I say it's personal because I truly believe that whatever I create and build now and that wealth gets translated into others being able to build wealth for themselves, that will do good for the broader world because they will want to give back into those sectors that are so, today you might call that impact investing for, some parts of the world, but to me it's just a functional being a good human and a personal thing that I want to give to this world.
and so thank you for that because I like that distinction. And impact investing sometimes is uh, misused for donations, and donations have,
Mhm.
they do have a place, but when you're investing, you can create a lot of wealth. You can have an immense socioeconomic benefit,
Mhm.
including a good return for your investment. But I like what you said because personally, I also think that money can be a powerful tool,
Yes.
but it could be a tool for oppression as well. But
Yes.
we can use money as a tool for progress, and then it just starts self-perpetuating and growing. And I love everything you say. It's so wonderful. Yeah. Is that Libra? Is that going to be
Yes.
Libra?
Libra. Yes.
Good, good. So let me end this with something that I learned from the Aymara tribe in Chile. So one thing is that I always end my conversations with our guests is when I was 13, I died, but I didn't die completely. So I came back. I fell off a horse and I was in coma for 4 days. And then I realized that, my life is going to end, so I need to make the best use of my life. But it was very clear to me that there's going to be a time where I'm no longer here. So my question is always about what is your essence, who you are when you're not here. And as I continue having guests, I realize that we can look at our lives in the way the Aymara do. The Aymara tribes don't have a sense of future. They look at everything towards the past. You can imagine how difficult it was for me to teach them financial uh, projections because you couldn't do that. But it's an interesting thing to look at our lives when we are departing. And my question then to you is, who do you think Laura is when Laura is no longer here? Who are you?
I've had a chance to think about that more recently, probably more than I wanted to, only because my father passed away a little bit over 2 months ago, and it was very
Sorry.
sudden. It was, he was given 3 weeks to live, and almost precisely, he passed away in 3 weeks. And so that was the first time that death came so close to my doorstep, and in a very close way, and understanding and seeing someone that you had as just a pillar of strength, a pillar of everything that you are, just quickly leave you was shocking, but it was also just a lot of inspiration and learnings that I took from that. The one thing that I would say is as he was passing, we wanted to obviously share every moment with him and and then share that with our family. And after he passed, every single one of our family members said to me, he was such a happy person. He was such a happy, life of the party, always positive, such a good, happy person. And I started to think about that because everybody wanted to be around him. And everybody, when they think about who in the family was like when they called when, they were down, they would call him. And he struggled with a lot and he never was negative about it. No one would even know because he was just like, I'm happy. So that really resonated with me. That really resonated with me because people were just sharing so many beautiful stories about his positivity. And so when I pass, if I think about what I want people to remember me by, is that I was a good person and was a good person and I like really cared about the people that were in my life and that they can reflect on stories about how I cared for them, how I treated them, how they knew I was, trustworthy through and through. And I just want people to know that about me, that I'm a good person. And you don't have to be this or that or the other. You can be whatever you want, and I will welcome you with open arms.
Oh, wow. You're the ideal investor because
Yeah.
we need people who are people. Laura, thank you so much for being with us. How do people contact you? LinkedIn?
Yes, LinkedIn would be great. It's Laura E. Moreno, is my handle. But you can also email me at laura@lucas.me.
Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your wisdom with us. It was a pleasure. What's your daughter's name?
Adriana Lucas, Adriana,
Adriana. And your dad?
Antonio. Yeah.
Antonio.
Mhm.
So to Antonio, to celebrate his memory and his legacy here as well with us. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thanks, Alicia.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed this podcast. I met Laura many years ago, I think at a bank or conference. And of course, being two Latinas VCs, we started talking, we shared deals, we just co-invested in one deal. And it is the true spirit of collaboration that is much needed in the venture capital industry. As myself, Laura did not think she was going to be an investor. And the good reflection for you and for people who are listening to the podcast is that we need more investors. And it's not that hard, but we need to understand that industry. So I encourage you to think about investing in early stage companies, but to do it with the intention to make money, to help founders make money as well or create wealth, and not just doing blindly, and to really dive into how to use capital for socioeconomic progress. This is your host, Alicia Castillo Holley, and I'll see you in our next episode. Thanks for tuning in to our Wealthing Talks. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. To stay connected, visit us at wealthing.com. This is Alicia Castillo Holley, your host, and until next time, yours in Wealthing.